Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to go out to the original name of Joshua. As we know, it's Joshua, which was Moses' successor. Uh, when I refer here to the New Testament Messiah is I believe he's a Messiah and he's come for the first time, while others believe differently. Some believe that there's a Messiah coming, but I believe that this is the Messiah, which bears out the same short form as the name Joshua. So what we're looking here is, see, Joshua, the word you see Joshua in your Bible, actually underlying that text is three different Hebrew words, or spellings, if you would put it that way. Uh, this one here is the most common one used, and you see these things highlighted in green? Those are actually vowel markers, and most Hebrew readers, that pretty fluent in Hebrew and read all day, and like in Israel, on their bulletin boards, newspapers, and etc., don't use those because they don't need those. This is the second form that's used in the Bible. It's only used in the Bible twice, but it's the most common form of spelling a day. This staircase of dots is a U, and this is also a letter U, but there's just a slight difference in the pronunciation of them. So the short form, this one sounds like the same U that this one does. Now, when listening to various Hebrew speakers in Israel, whether you're in Israel or you're listening to them while they are in Israel, but they're on video or TV or whatever, it's noticeable that they vary on how they accent the Y letter, which is the first letter in the Messiah's name in the Hebrew, albeit basically with the same vowel sounds in print. They'll say yeah, yah, yay, yah, ye, yeah, yeah. I've never heard none of them say yo, but they all seem to be consistent in what they say in the middle for the middle syllable, shoe, like the word shoe on your feet, and the catch is the last syllable, which ends with that letter that looks like a fancy looking Y letter, English Y letter right here. This right here, that letter's called an ayin, and it rhymes with the word wine, like a bottle of wine, but it's spelled A-Y-I-N, and it's ayin. It has to do with optical, your eye. Generally, what goes undetected by the foreign ear is the last sound of in that last syllable of the Messiah's name in Joshua, which may sound as if it were ending in and it's more to the tune of ang, ong, because it sounds like the ng in the word English. Only in this case, the ng is put as close to the back of your throat as possible. And when you're saying that last syllable, it's actually that same letter, ayin letter, is also the same letter that's in Hebrew, for the Hebrew words. It starts with the words we know as Gaza and Gomorrah. So you can see here why, you can see why there's a G sound in the pronunciation. Right here. See, and right here we go again. We see that fancy looking ayin letter in the blue. It looks like a fancy looking Y letter, like in yellow, Y in yellow, and this here is about vowels. All these in the highlight green is vowels. Very few languages have equivalents to put the Messiah's original name into a script form. Would obviously Hebrew and its sister language Aramaic. In the Bible, the Aramaic for the Bible is like, and the Hebrew is like 70% the same same words. But it's some people put it as high as 90%. But a lot of it, if you can read Hebrew, really wouldn't take that much long to read Aramaic. But also Arabic and Chinese have the equivalents to put that ayin letter into their, you know, they have to put the Messiah's name in their language, and also the sh as well. So this here is the basic form used, and some Bibles will just transcribe it into there. So you can use whatever translation you're using, as close as you can get it, or however how whatever translation you use. Some of them use the longer form and put it in there. Now, if you can speak English fluently in Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic, or Chinese, then you can read through your English and you can just actually say that as it sounds, like in the original tongue. The short form right here is right here. This is one of the places it's at. This is just an example. The same form, the name Joshua, is also used in Acts chapter 7 verse 45 and Hebrews chapter 4 verse 8, where and this refers to Moses' successor and not the Messiah, which was had some people thought that back years ago in older Bibles because it had Jesus in there, and then of course in the past 150 years we use the terminology of Jesus for that word in those Bibles. It's also the same spelling for Joshua in Colossians chapter 4 verse 11. Although since it notes in that verse he was also called Justice, I trust that people will know the difference there if it says Jesus there in their old Bibles, or even Yeshua or whatever. Okay, now let's start with the first syllable as you use it, whatever how you accent the Y. You know the next syllable is shu. The last syllable is going to be the catchy one, so we're going to do it the best we can. Now there's more to it, but this is going to be as close as we can get. See, if you're speaking a tongue every day that uses that letter, original letter as it sounds, and it may sound more than one way in a different accent, we'll get close to it. Okay, shu, ong. Put the ng back as close as your throat, just like the ng in the word English. And it's back to your throat as possible. Shu, ong. Shu, ong. So that's why you can't tell, when you're listening to them, you can't tell if they're saying Yeshua, Yeshua, Yeshuang, etc. Generally, although some Latin-based languages transliterate with the I instead of a Y, like we do here in America, and in some cases I do the same thing. I use this form here as far as in print's concerned, like on social media and email and etc. And so for those people that use something that starts with a Y and ends with shua, as we best say it in English most commonly, then I'll let them just fill in the part for the apostrophe or whatever they use, because there's 3 or 4 different forms there. However, do keep in mind what words are used in one language, even in a good way, may go a whole different direction in another language, or any of the 9,068 plus languages in the world. It's noteworthy that there's going to be some difference between American language, English, and Great Britain, because my understanding is that I speak American English, so if I had to go to Great Britain, I'd have to make sure I know what I'm saying, because something might be cool in American language, but the same word may not be so cool over there. You may wind up insulting somebody. Although regarding Messiah's original name, and aka Joshua, which was previously addressed in regards to the last letter in the name, well, some languages just don't even have equivalents for the sh neither, which is one Hebrew letter, but we use 2 English letters, like the word in shelter, the sh in shelter. And that doesn't mean that those that can do it 100% are better than us or more blessed or anything like that. And in English we can do it we could get 66.7% close in the American language, and that doesn't make us any better than those that can't get that close, because, like I say, some don't have the sh sound. Now, some people choose the spelling for the y as Yah, since a simple form of the tetragrammaton, Yahweh, is Yah. Actually, in Hebrew, the H is silent, though in English we don't utilize that. And in some cases, they just spell it without the H. And it's also, they had this thing about where, issues regarding the tetragrammaton, which they didn't want to write it out into their manuscripts and stuff like that, so they used replacements like YWY, and of course that backfired on them because of the natural inflection gave away a pronunciation, so they went with 3 Y letters. And this here is another form used, and is still used to this date, and it's pretty much called a euphemism for the tetragrammaton, or like an abbreviation. Do note the A-type letters in Yah and Yah and Yahweh are 2 different vowels when you go by the classical biblical dialect, though in one Hebrew dialect they don't differentiate between the 2 different A-type vowels. And which there's not really much to worry about that and be concerned about that, because it's breathed anyway, and it go up 4 different ways. Whether the person's mute or mute and deaf, or one or the other, or those that can't articulate well, the tetragrammaton is on their lips. And this, if you understand what the word for that you see the word name for in the English Bibles, it ironically rhymes with shame. but it's like breath, wind, and character. So and it fits in beautifully, because the word for spirit is ruach, and it also means wind. And so it's the Hebrew is beautiful the way it all works together. As far as breathing it, you might breathe it 4 different ways, like, and you can notice that, you can. I listen to myself after a long walk, going, and that's one of the beautiful things that we're blessed with. The Heavenly Father has blessed us with in regard to that. It's also vocally articulated in 4 different ways that I know of. You can. 4 different ways the tetragrammaton is. Optionally, Yah, as I say, a lot of people do that. I hear very few people. I don't think I've heard it more than 1 or 2 people say, yeah. That's the way I know it, because that's a standard vowel used out of Israel for the Y letter. It is the A that sounds like in cats. Cat's paw. Another thing to keep in mind is the pronunciation in Yah by itself, differs in meanings for other languages, like in Hindi, and I understand Russian as well. Okay, thank you, folks. I love you, and much love and blessings to you all. And I thank you for listening.